Hello, I would like to thank all of you for joining us today to celebrate International Women's Day. I am thankful for Sharon and Martin to have reached out 2 years ago and invited me to be part of this great initiative, Women in Lighting, as the ambassador for Lebanon. Other than being an interior architect and lighting designer, I am also an educator. I teach lighting design at Académie Libanaise des Beaux Arts here in Lebanon. The last year has been a challenging one. On the bright side, going through the online process helped me better tackle the subjects of today's presentation. Who relates to this picture? I am sure that at least 80% of you have attended similar classrooms, with the buzzing of the transformers and the flickering of the fluorescent lamps, the unreadable math exercise on the green board due to glare. Please don't take me back to those days. In the last decade, the approach to educational spaces design evolved tremendously. So why is that? Because we are the new generation, the generation of the video games, the generation of the tablets and smartphones, the generation of the virtual reality, and now the generation of the online learning. We perceive spaces and environment differently than did the previous generations. Thus, the spaces we live in must adapt as much as possible to our new lifestyle. This statement could have been 100% accurate a year ago, but with the COVID crisis and all the lockdowns, our notion of space, time, and education has taken a tremendous shift in perspective. Our educational system, as we know it, is put to rude challenge. Our classrooms are empty. They have shifted to our screens. Social interactivity has a new definition. What will happen to all the spaces we have already designed now that the new normal is the remote learning and social distancing? We've been having this animated discussion with our clients. IDEPCONSULT has been working with the Lebanese American University for the last 8 years and creating spaces for their ongoing student body. They have asked us to investigate and redefine the future of educational buildings. In a recent Gensler publication, the below was stated, the pandemic, inequality, and the climate crisis have challenged us to redefine the experience of our campuses and rethink them through the lens of human experience. The focus now is to create institutions that are more resilient, equitable, and responsive to people's needs as we emerge from a global health crisis. With this in mind, we know now that the future of learning is hybrid. After long hours of research and discussion with the different players, those are the parameters that need to be addressed while developing our design. Digital transformation, reconfigured spaces, health, and sustainability. Digital transformation. Transform all classrooms and other usable spaces into smart classrooms, i.e. equip them with projectors, screens, TV, cameras, microphones, and connection to the internet. Those spaces need to be as technologically connected as possible. We need to rethink the way classes are taught. The target is to teach 35 to 40% of the courses virtually. The rest of the courses will be taught in a hybrid manner, a combination of online hours for all theoretical notions, as for the physical elements required for the course deliverable to be done on campus. Reconfigure available spaces. This means educational space planning paradigm of the past, driven by density and cost, need to shift. Shops, studios, and classrooms to be reconfigured to provide space for 2 meters of physical distancing by removing furniture. Rethink all spaces such as cafeteria, lounges, open-air patios, originally designed for socializing, to be used as classrooms and teaching spaces. Health. Approach the health-related issues the student, faculty, and staff are facing, whether physical or physiological. Important of well-being is to be the focus of the faculty and staff. During lockdown time, constraints of online learning, missing social interactivity, lack of daylight, isolation, uncertainty, overwhelming nature of COVID-19 create stress, anxiety, and mental health issues to our students and educators. As the plan is to return on campus, administrators need to actively work on the social, emotional, and physical well-being of the students, faculty, and staff, and the greater need to ensure their physical and psychological safety. Sustainability. The big lesson we learned from the lockdowns and the COVID crisis is that the way we have been treating the planet needs to be changed. We need to actively create spaces sustainable, as we will find health through sustainability. One of our ongoing projects for the LAU is the Gezairy Building. This project completion date, originally scheduled for 2020, is constantly being changed due in part to the coronavirus's lockdowns. During this lockdown time, we at IDEPCONSULT have put our heads together to study the possible changes we can do to our design and installations to the Gezairy Building. We need to make sure the Gezairy Building can cater for all learning types, in-person, remote, and hybrid. As the project completion date is approaching, the main concern of the design team is how to adapt the existing spaces and installations in a reasonable time without major budget additions and addressing the new parameters: digital integration, health, sustainability, and reconfigure spaces and function. The LAU Gezairy Building is expected to open its doors to the students in the summer of 2021. We have closely worked with Huda Lighting for a custom solution developed with ProLicht for the classrooms and Moucharabieh and class for all circulations. The building was the headquarters of a shipping company and the Ma'asid School. LAU acquired the building in 2013 to transform it into School of Architecture, Interior Design, Graphic Design, and Fashion. The project was originally composed of one tower of 17 stories and the school of 11. We have dismantled the top 4 floors of the tower, added 2 to the school, and completed a 3rd block. In this way, we have increased the building footprint from 13,000 square meters to 17,000 square meters. Those are renderings showing the internal courtyard, cafeteria view. The workshop, the cafeteria, and courtyard could be repurposed as classrooms and studios. Plenty of daylight and ventilation help with the well-being of students and educators. Workshop view it's a conscious decision that we took to have the workshops on the ground floor where students can see and get encouraged to use it. An open-air courtyard is a great asset for socialization. Cafeteria review with a custom ceiling luminaire in ashwood. The circulation between the different spaces and floors is done through open-air corridors and stairs, perfect to fight the COVID-19 virus. View from the 12th floor. This courtyard is one big asset to fighting the COVID-19 virus. Plenty of daylight and ventilation help enhance the wellness of the students and educators. Daylight also helps reduce power consumption. Entrance to the auditorium with custom patterns created by our in-house graphic designer and artist Cherine Saroufim. Auditorium view with the integration of the lighting with the acoustical ceilings. The lighting is completely controllable via DALI with a Crestron interface to adapt to any setting. We are working with the university's IT department to upgrade all equipment to enable lectures and classes to be broadcasted directly online. The HVAC has also been studied in a way that it is fed through fresh air constantly. Student lounge on the 13th floor. The lighting is completely controllable via DALI to adapt to any setting out and layout. For the students that have issues with the internet connections or space availability in their home, this lounge is being studied to welcome them. Furniture layout will be changed to accommodate the new safety requirements. This is a render view of our typical studios. In this building, we have 8 high-tech classrooms, 27 studios, and 4 multi-purpose rooms for the departments and universities' use. Our design team's main focus was how to upgrade the studios to work within the framework of a hybrid method of learning. We are leaning towards asynchronous learning as an overreaching vision for the design, with the aim of enhancing accessibility and equity. It was important for us that the spaces we are upgrading can accommodate an in-person classroom one day, but also be equipped with the technology for a lecturer to host a class digitally the next day for those who physically can't come to the actual instructional space. These are some examples of studio layout in the Gezairy Building. Dimensions, furniture layout and orientation, thus impacting the daylight, differ from one to the other. This is a typical studio design with linear fixture, in this case equipped with 4 lighting modules, each module individually DALI addressable. We have worked closely with ProLift to have a fixture that was as compact as possible, 2.5 centimeters by 3.8 and a UGR below 19. All our spaces are equipped with 4000K 90 CRI LED fixtures. As per proven research studies done in the last years, the 4000 is the most suitable temperature for this type of setting out to keep the students alert without exciting them. We also have 4 wall washers. This is the site mock-up where we are doing all our testing and fine-tuning. We also have to compose our studio scenes with 2 types of curtains, blackout and sheer, 1 projector and screens as well as a whiteboard. Crystal control for the instructor desk to communicate with our smart boxes along with a presence detector are the key players of the control. Our system not only controls the lighting and the already mentioned equipment, but also gives signal to the VRV system through the PFS to switch to fan mode when there is no detection of presence in the space, or to pick up the temperature from 22 to 27 degrees, depending on the seasons. Our classrooms and studios are being redesigned to limit density and enable social distancing of at least 2 meters between students. Originally, we have designed our studios and classrooms to be smart ones. Following the pandemic, we found it necessary to equip the teacher's podium with multiple cameras to enable the teacher to demonstrate hand sketching on the desk or to swivel and show the entire class to a visiting guest critics. And extra TVs are to be installed in the front and back of the studios so that the students accessing the class remotely feel integrated in the class. Necessary and adequate lighting will be added to better light the instructor's face during recording and online streaming. We have created 5 different scenes in a way that it follows the tasks undertaken in the studios. Scene 1, projection. Scene 2, whiteboard. Scene 3, open studio with daylight. Scene 4, open studio without daylight. Scene 5, remote teaching. We will check together the first 4 scenes. Unfortunately, the last one is still on our drawing boards and not yet executed in the mock-up. And this because, well, you've guessed it, we are locked down. This is the scene 1, projection. In-person class scenario. The instruction is present in class and using the projection as a tool to explain his course. Students are present in class and juggling between following the presentation and taking notes. At the center of our design is the psychology of the student and the educator. We need to make sure that the environment is suitable for the duration of the class. Our approach to the lighting design is to have low light levels around the screen to avoid interfering with the projector's luminance. In parallel, we can't have the whole class dimmed as it will affect the well-being of the students and their levels of awareness. This is why we have gradually increased the lighting levels as we move away from the screen to keep the students alert. From a student's perspective, check how the zone around the screen is dark enough so that the projected image is clear and how the tabletops are well illuminated so that the students can take notes while having light levels high enough not to doze off. From a teacher's perspective, the faces of the students are well lit and teacher-student eye contact is easy. Face-to-face interactivity is engaged. And this is a side view. Scene 2, whiteboard. In-person class scenario. While the whiteboards with markers have replaced the green chalkboards, but this medium of teaching is still widespread in our educational system. Reflections and glare are the parameters we need to tackle with our lighting solution. Students usually complain about seeing the reflection of the light fixture or the windows in the board. With carefully selected fixtures with an UGR below 19, our lighting design avoids this issue. To balance daylight shining from the windows, we have added wall washers so that the contrast ratio are balanced. The educator, on the other hand, always complains about the difference in contrast between the class and the board. The position of the wall washers and the light overall levels in the classroom have been studied in a way that they will not dazzle the teacher when his focus shifts from the whiteboard to his students. From a student's perspective, here we have the shears down, and the light levels on the whiteboard are high enough to balance any daylight coming from the space. I would like to point out that even with the fixture lit at almost full capacity, we have no glare. From a teacher's perspective, the educator's focus that shifts from the whiteboard to his student is done in a smooth way due to the balanced light levels. In adding the wall washer, parts of the shades can stay open and let the daylight in, ticking the boxes for health and sustainability. A side view. Scene 3. In-person class scenario. We are blessed to have so much daylight in Lebanon. Part of the renovation was to increase the opening of the windows to let in daylight as much as possible, thus contributing to the well-being of the students and faculty. Circadian Rhythm 101. Also, daylighting is loved in our school for its capacity of rendering objects and colors as conceived by their designer. As this classroom is on the east facade, our lighting distribution is perpendicular to the facade. Instead of addressing the lines as a whole, we are controlling each individual module to balance the incoming daylight. From a student's perspective, the sun, a shifting source in the sky, changes the mood of the space throughout the day and the year. Students are energized and their creativity is boosted. As an educator myself, teaching a class in broad daylight, it is always more fulfilling than giving it in a basement classroom. Students are more alert and ready to learn. Scene 4, open studio without daylight. In-person class scenario, studios and classes are operational from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. So making sure our spaces are well lit at any time of the day is crucial. A good balanced lighting distribution helps bring back concentration to a classroom after a long day. Our fixtures are 4000 K, a temperature that is cool enough to keep the student focused and warm enough to balance the stress levels before they go back home. From a student's perspective, homogeneous lighting levels, no glare, and good rendering help the students focus on the task at hand. From a teacher's perspective, having the adequate lighting levels will suppress melatonin, boost the student's concentration, and will ease the teacher-student communication, especially after a long day. Any of the above 4 scenes can be upgraded to become a remote learning scene by adding the technological layer as cameras, microphone, and designated speaker lighting as previously mentioned. 8 studios out of 45 were selected to be fully upgraded to serve the online teaching. The other studios will support hybrid learning. We are working with the audiovisual department of LAU and their educators to develop courses that can be pre-recorded or transmitted live during the amenities in those 8 classrooms. Our aim is to open the courses and education to the different LAU campuses, and why not to the other universities. All studies showed that the world was heading to digital transformation, but thank God to the COVID-19 crisis, the process has taken a big jump forward. Scenes shown in this presentation are still at the mock-up phase, and there is still some tweaking and adjusting to be made. They will be adapted, taking into consideration classroom orientation and floor, as daylight will vary. In this typical studio, we are addressing our 4 parameters for the lockdown and post-lockdown era discussed earlier. Digital transformation. All our studios are now smart classrooms with all necessary equipment to cater for in-person or remote learning. Crestron and DALI control system integrate all equipment and lighting in a user-friendly interface. Reconfigured spaces. Layout can be amended depending on the capacity and course requirement. With the installed control system, preset lighting scenes respond to the different activities and occupancy at the touch of a button. Health. Plenty of daylight and open air spaces is always good for well-being. Having the possibility of conducting and participating to the classes remotely is also a big advantage. Sustainability, controlling the air conditioning, dimming the lighting fixtures, addressing shades, using the available daylight, and having only a consumption of 5.5 watts per square meter for the lighting is in itself an achievement for sustainability. As this presentation comes to an end, goodbye 2020 and its pandemic fear. Hello 2021 with mass vaccination. I hope that by fall 2021, we would all go back in presence to our campuses. If you have learned anything from this previous year, irrespective of race, gender, and religion, in-person experiences are essential for social and emotional relationship building and igniting inspiration. A special thank you to my students who have taught me resilience throughout this last year. And I need to point out that on this International Women's Day, more than 80% of my current student body is women. Continuity is secured. Thank you.